We're going to start with the part about peak performance and flow state. And let me start with a simple question. Have you ever had a moment where you felt fully focused, where it felt as you were completely absorbed in what you were doing, that everything else just seemed to disappear, that you became one with the activity, where time seemed to pass very differently versus normal, where you worked for hours, but it felt like 5 minutes, where decisions felt almost automatic and effortless, even though what you were doing was hard? And if so, then you were in flow state. And if we want to deliver our best work when it matters most, it's important to understand flow state and how to access it. Now, before I'm going to explain more about flow, I have a simple question for you, a question you can answer on slide 3 of the workbook and in the chat. Recall a great moment in flow. What were you doing? We're going to work with this later on, so it's important to know something. Even if you don't write it in the chat, make sure you have something in your head. Okay, so about flow, what's important to understand is that flow is biological. In flow, your neurochemistry changes as happy molecules start flowing through your body, stress chemicals leave your body, and your brain waves change. Now, flow was first described by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi as a state of optimal consciousness, a state where you're fully involved in the activity in the here and now, and where action and awareness merged, and where nothing else seemed to matter. And what is important to understand is this: flow is not just a nice feeling; it's a performance state. So let's quickly explain what flow can do for you. So let's talk about the impact of flow. What is the impact of the biological changes happening in your body? It gives a boost to physical performance and to cognitive performance. When it comes to physical performance, the change in the chemistry leads to increased strength, improve muscle reaction time, and deaden pain. So basically, you become faster, stronger, and you can go on for longer. But as I said, also cognitive performance goes up. Motivation goes up. Creativity goes up, which gives you the tools to solve complex problems. Learning skyrockets and productivity goes through the roof. McKinsey did a 10-year study and they found that top executives are five times more productive in flow than out of flow. So if you want to have a competitive advantage, get more into flow. So this raises the question, how do we get into flow? Because that is what we need when we need to be at our best, when it matters most, when it's really busy. We need to get more into flow. So how do we do that? To start with the good news, flow is hackable. There are ways to get into flow. And these ways to get into flow are called flow triggers. And I'm going to show you here. And I'm going to very briefly touch on that, because that's not the heart of this workshop. So flow triggers basically are preconditions that can help you drop into flow, as they help you drive attention and full focus on the task at hand in the present moment. It's important to understand that flow follows focus. So you get into flow when you have to fully focus on the task. Let me give you 3 quick examples of these flow triggers and how they work. The first one is clear goals, so internal number 5. You need to know exactly what you're doing or what you try to achieve. No second guessing on what you have to do. So full dedication because you know what you have to do and how. That leads to flow. That's a clear goal flow trigger. The second one is risk. When there's something at stake, your attention will sharpen. You will fully focus because you have to get this right. And the third one that I want to mention is what I call the VUCA flow trigger. This is a combination of a few flow triggers. So VUCA, as you may know, stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And this is exactly the environment in which many of you operate, especially when you're financial services and in markets. Markets move, information changes, patterns need to be recognized in real time. And the combination of VUCA with clear goals and real consequences is a real nice stacking of flow triggers. This is why in these environments, when managed well, people experience the highest level of flow. Okay, now think back of your experience in flow. What were the triggers there, i.e. what got you into flow? So please fill this in on slide 3 of the workbook. And if you have the courage, leave them in the chat as well. So you can leave in the chat what flow triggers work for you or you think that work for you. I'm curious to find out. 2 things actually. 1, who's got the courage to fill it in, and 2, what the flow triggers are that work very well for you. For example, in the flow moment that you thought of. I know this is a hard question, so maybe I'll give later some time for you to get back at this. So I'll quickly move on, and then later we can circle back to this. Thanks, Chris. Okay. So now let's look at the other side of the equation. So flow triggers are preconditions that help you drop into flow, as they help us drive attention to the task at hand in the present moment. Now there's a flip side to this, and these are flow blockers. These are things that pull you out of flow. They pull you away from the task at hand in the present moment. And if you want to be at our best when it matters most, we need to avoid these flow blockers like the plague. There are 8 of them. I will briefly mention them. I won't go into detail on all of them, but I'll discuss the most important one. And those 8 are distractions. If you're being distracted, you're being pulled away from the here and now. Unclear, when it's not clear what you have to do, or ambiguity. Unclarity, when you don't know what to do, it's hard to focus because you don't know what to focus on. Mismatch and challenge skills. I'll explain that a bit later. Fear of judgment or perfectionism. If you have this, then you're worried about the there and then, and therefore you can't be in the here and now. Lack of recovery or burnout. Also, that will be explained later. Low autonomy or misalignment. Emotional dysregulation and overstimulation. Now I have some questions for you, which you can fill in on slide number 4. And leave the answers in the chat below. The first question is, which of these flow blockers do you think most people suffer from the most? What is the flow blocker, the most important flow blocker for most people, and why? And the second question is, what is the biggest flow blocker for you? And so that first question, what do you think is the most important flow blocker for most people? I would be curious to find out. I'll be curious to find out what you think that is. What's the most important flow blocker for most people out of these 8? Seven and 8, overstimulation, yeah. Lack of recovery, yeah. Fear of judgment. Mismatch and challenge skills, yeah, thanks. Okay. For me, number 1. Okay, well, we have a winner. Okay, so the biggest flow blocker for most people is distraction. And there are 2 elements to this. 1, we are our own worst distractor. And 2, we distract ourselves through our mobile phone. Now in the flow program, I have a full video on your mobile phone. but I want to keep it to 3 environmental tips to block the flow blockers and set up an environment so you can deliver your best work. So here are 3 tips. Tip number 1, clear the clutter. Make sure you work from a clean desk. Remove all unnecessary objects and papers. Keep your desk minimal. Any piece of paper or other things on your desk can pull you out of flow. It can distract you. So therefore, and here's tip number 2, remove all visual triggers. Turn off extra monitors. So if you work with multiple screens, put all the screens off except the one you're working on. Only keep the active task visible. Make sure nothing comes through. This includes pop-ups for emails or chat systems like Bloomberg, IB Chat, Slack messaging, and definitely no WhatsApp on your computer, please. Okay, tip number 3, and this might surprise you, headphones. I highly recommend using noise cancelling headphones. And yes, even when you work from home by yourself. And there are 3 reasons for the headphone. Number 1, obviously, is to protect you from noise and keeps the distraction out. If you get distracted and pulled out of flow, it usually takes at least 20 minutes to get back into a flow state. So keep the noise out. The second reason is colleagues or family. If you got your headphones on, it's a signal to them. They know you can't be disturbed unless it's really urgent. And the third reason, headphones can create a Pavlovian effect. When I started my flow journey, I used to have my headphones around my neck, and I would start working. And where it felt I got close to flow, I put them on. And like the salivating dog in the Pavlov experience, I immediately drop into flow. So it's a very good sort of physical cue for you to drop into flow. Okay, so now a question for slide number 4 and on the chat. What are you committed to do to have more flow by blocking your flow blockers? What are things that you can do to make sure you have less things blocking your flow? And then you can look at things around these flow blockers, but also the 3 things that I mentioned here. So what can you do? I'm curious to find out, what can you do to make sure you're being less exposed to flow triggers, to flow blockers, sorry.